Hi, everyone. It is Friday, and that means it's the Parent Exchange. And my name is Tilly Elvram, and I am your host and administrator here at Parent Support for Online Learning. And as you can tell, we're not live again because Zoom and Facebook just do not want to cooperate. And earlier in the week, I had done a troubleshooting run, and everything looked good to go. And now it's not working. I don't know if Fridays are like overload for Zoom and everybody's doing happy hour. I'm not sure what's happening here, but I'm going to investigate that and do a little bit of, I don't know, technical research and figure out why they are not communicating correctly. So I apologize for that, but we have a really good conversation for you today on a subject that I know really frustrates a lot of parents, frustrates a lot of students, unfortunately, and that's math. We all need a little help with math these days, especially because so much of the support role has been enhanced for parents, and kids aren't in their traditional learning settings. And so we wanted to bring somebody in who could kind of point you in the right direction, give you some support. And so today we have Courtney Waterman with us, and you may have seen some of his videos posted in the group. He shared them with us before, and he leads Tutor Me Sempai, and which we're going to talk about the name of his tutoring service and his video tutorials here in a minute. But I wanted to welcome, hi Courtney, welcome to the Parent Exchange.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Good. We're so glad you're here, and we appreciate your patience while I fight with technology. Tell me a little bit about yourself, because I think what was really great when we started talking is you are not an educator by trade,
Nope.
but you have a very extensive math background. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So yeah, I would love to. So I definitely am not an educator by trade. I've loved math since I was little though. So it was kind of one thing that I knew I can always fall back on. Growing up, I was always asked, "Are you going to be a teacher?" Because math just came to me, and I was like, "No, no, no." But I ended up going to college and got my bachelor's in math, pure math. Then went to grad school, got a master's in applied math. And I realized at that point in time, math that I loved was very different from the math that I was getting into in grad school. So that's when I started switching the narrative a little bit. But I've always had this sweet spot for the math that I grew up with, and always trying to help the younger people understand that. And actually not just younger people, because when I was in college, I would work at a computer lab, and I was helping people of all ages in the computer lab. But I've always had that heart to kind of break down what I knew. And I've had friends and family tell me how I have a different way of breaking things down that some people get a little bit easier. So I was like, well, hey, if that's the case, I want to give whatever I can back. So throughout my time since college, I've done various forms of tutoring, from being a private tutor when I was in college to try to get a little bit extra funds. I was a private tutor. Then, when I got my first job outside of college, my job was gracious enough to have volunteer programs in which you can choose different things. But one of those was like volunteering at a school, in which I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I've never had the opportunity to tutor like first grade, like really young. So I jumped on that. And for the first 2 years that I was there, I did first and second grade tutoring. And I just fell in love with the kids I was tutoring. Just their little minds and what they grasp and how they hold on to you and they look for you. And it's just amazing. And I wanted to kind of get that feeling a little bit more outside of that. So my church, I talked with my pastor at the time, and I was like, hey, I want to do a little bit more. And I want to know if it was okay if I started a ministry. I want to grab some people who are good at other subjects And I really want to see if we can reach out, because I know we got some people in the body, and some people that know other people that could benefit from our skills. So I can do math, I can find someone for reading, and just kind of broaden this out. And that worked for at least a year. And we gathered a few tutors, and we met in the sanctuary, and it was like twice a week, and it was just amazing, just seeing people kind of travel and just like, hey, I just need help, and it was no cost. And he's like, hey, if you can get here, we'll open the church up, and we'll just make it happen. So for over the years, I've just tried to find different avenues of getting back. And regrettably, I haven't been able to do much more recently, but that's because life has kind of gotten a little bit busier. I am now a father, whereas I wasn't back then. So my toddler has monopolized a lot of my time, but I still had that feeling. I really wanted to give back still. And some people have kind of reached out to me like, hey, can you tutor? Can you tutor? And I'm like, I can, but that would take away time from my son and my wife, in which he's in that precious age where, he's latching on to everything. And I'm like, traveling here and traffic and after work, because I work 40 hours still, it's like, it doesn't seem like I'll be able to maximize that. So one of the things that really jumped out at me was just the flexibility of doing videos. And I was like, I might not be able to reach anybody right now. And that still kind of hurts me, because I want to hit everybody as much as I can. But I was like, if I can stay true to this in a year, 2 years, there'll be so many more people who can benefit from my time now than I could probably ever hope to reach manually in a lifetime. So I just been kind of pushing through, just trying to keep going, keep putting things out there, try to remind myself of some of these topics, and try to think of different ways, some stuff that I've learned and some stuff that I haven't learned. But I'm just like, okay, now that I have this mind that I've cultivated all these years, what are some other ways I can break down this topic? And here we are today, and that's what kind of gave birth to Tutor Me Senpai, just kind of this constant want of giving back and figuring out what kind of calling do I have in this life. I don't think I was born to sit in the house and not do anything. So just trying to figure out, what are my gifts, what are my talents, what has God granted me. And I feel like this is one way that I can give back, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to help those who might need the help.
Well, and it's a challenging time, but here you have the opportunity to harness technology, to be able to help, kids that you can't meet in the sanctuary of the church or at the tutoring center. And so this is really a way for you to reach kids all over the country, kids
Yes,
you may
indeed.
never meet, but that need you and need your expertise. So Tutor Me Senpai, we have to get that out of the way. For the non-nerds out there, you and I excluded, that aren't into Japanese and Asian culture and anime, what's a senpai or senpai, and where did you decide that was going to be the name of your services?
So it's a funny story. I've before college, I liked these cartoons. I didn't know what they were. Sixth grade, that's where I really kind of got into it, and I had some friends who were drawing, and I started drawing, and I was like, I really like these. You're so amazing. And up until like throughout high school, I was kind of just watching these, but I never really understood. To me, it was just another form of cartoons, and I've loved cartoons since I was younger. But when I got into college, my first roommate, he was an anime nerd to the fullest. And I would sit there and watch him early in the morning get up and sit in front of his computer. And then late at night, I'm like, what are you watching over there? And I would sit next to him, I would look, and I was like, hey, that looks like what I was watching before. And he like opened my eyes to this whole new world of different genres and everything. So since like freshman year of college, 18 years old, I am now 32. I I just loved anime. And one of the things in anime, they have different names. You know, like we have teacher, we have professor, we have upperclassmen, lowerclassmen. The same thing happens in anime. But I wanted to do something a little bit different from just throwing a random English name out there. So I kind of like, well, I want to do a tutoring channel, um, and I really like anime. And although there's no real anime in my videos, that's still a part of who I am. I love anime, and I was like, well, I'm not a sensei, I'm not a professor, I'm not a teacher of any credentials, but I can be seen as somebody's like upperclassman, like trying to give back to an underclassman. So that's where senpai came from. And it's spelled with an N. That's the official word senpai, Senpai. But I'm also not Japanese. So I didn't want to just take senpai and someone would type that in thinking they're going to get a Japanese guy, and you get me. So I was like, let me tweak it a little bit so Japanese people know, hey, I'm not Japanese. I'm not trying to like be Japanese, but I definitely want to kind of use that that moniker almost. And I switched the M because that's also something that's kind of acknowledged here in America as meaning somewhat similar. And then put it together, Tutor Me Senpai was born.
Well, I love it. The minute I saw it, I was like, this guy's a nerd, just like me. And yes. I just was like, I just connected. So from one nerd to another, I appreciate the reference, and I appreciate that you are taking on kind of a master, trainer, kind of leader position when you're doing these videos and leading up and raising up these young kids that are going to watch these videos. How many videos have you done so far?
I believe I've done about 32 videos. So I try to do about one a week. I was thinking about trying to push it a little bit more, but I didn't want to have the quality of the video suffer. I could easily kind of churn out some videos, but one of the things that I really wanted to kind of stay true to was my teaching style. And in order to really break down a lesson, I often look at other people's lessons and try to see, okay, what do I like about them? What do I don't like about them? And what do I think I can portray to a different audience that might not see what they see? And that's kind of how I approach it. And that takes a little bit more time than just answering a question and just showing how I got that answer. I really want to have a teaching moment. I've since shaved down because I used to try to do like 30 minutes, and that wasn't really going well. So I'm like, let me shave that down a little bit so I can really focus in on background before I even get to a question, so that when you look at the whole video, you'll be able to do it from start to finish.
Yeah, I've watched several of your videos. I think the last one I watched was on fractions. And you did a great job of breaking it down to just the most basic principles about fractions, and then you built up on it. And I think the video altogether was about, 17 minutes or something like that, which I think for our youngest learners is kind of their sweet spot. You start getting into half an hour and an hour in front of a computer, and you are going to lose them. They are not going to be with you at the end. So I think you're doing a great job in figuring out just the right amount of time and hitting on, the concepts that kids need the most. I think the biggest problem or complaint or frustration, aggravation that parents have is Common Core math. It's my generation, because it is not how we learned how to do math. It is like a foreign language to many parents, and I think we're going to have a whole population of students return to in-person classes, And their math teachers are going to be like, what happened here?
Yes.
Because we are going to undo everything,
Everything.
everything that they've been taught because we don't understand it or anything like that. In your videos, are you tackling like Common Core approach to math that might help old parents like me who learned the old-fashioned way and don't know what we're doing?
So, good question. So there was one video in particular I really wanted to attack the Common Core way, and that was my multiplication video. I did it much earlier when I first started back in February. And my main goal with that was to show, hey, it's okay that we have, the old way that we're used to doing it. But this new way is not all that bad. It has its merits. Yes, it's vastly different, but it has its merits. But since then, I haven't done specifically Common Core. I'm just trying to, since I actually asked people when before I actually started, to give me some homework. So I can hey, what are you having problems with right now? Yes, I might not get to those answers right away, but I can kind of build on that. And I didn't really get much of a response. So I would just kind of go online and just find random topics that I remember from the top of my head. And because of that, I don't necessarily know what they're using Common Core on besides multiplication. Because when I look up a topic, it's not like it has Common Core next to it. So I'm just like, all right, well, here's a topic. Here are other people teaching it. Here's how I know. Here's how, here's another way I can show that. So I can't really say besides that multiplication, which I knew was a pain point for some of my friends with younger kids, there's not much more I know that hones in on Common Core. So if someone has Common Core that they're expecting to teach to a young one, I would love to know that so I can look into how they're teaching it and then share that with my younger audience as well.
Well, I think they've avoided labeling anything Common Core at this point because there was such a negative, I don't know, stigma around it, and it got politicized, and that's a whole other conversation. But that is definitely something I think parents would appreciate, is a little more insight into those, the new math, and how to help their kids. What's your next video going to be? Do you know yet?
Yes, I actually, I'm going to be editing it today. I'm going to break away from my usual format. Normally, I alternate between a middle school, a high school, and an elementary school. Right now, I'm only focusing on 4th and 5th grade for elementary school because 1st through 3rd, I want to do something special for those grades. And I'm not equipped to do that right now, but in the future, I will be. So for elementary, it's kind of just 4th and 5th. But I alternate between those sections. But for my next 3 weeks, I will be doing middle school. Yes, middle school. And this week, I'm going to be doing functions, graphing functions.
Right.
And I'm kind of build on that because I want to get into piecewise functions. And I realized I wanted to kind of jump into piecewise functions now, but I'm like, I haven't actually broken down how to actually graph a function to begin with. So I don't want to jump into graphing piecewise functions, and my audience don't have the basics for that. And because I honestly believe all math is built upon itself. So if you don't really start with a good foundation, understanding that higher math is going to be a lot more difficult. So since they're all in the same grade level, let me tackle graphing a function, then I'm going to tackle graphing a piecewise function, and then my 3rd week, I'm going to tackle evaluating a piecewise function. So kind of breaking down a piecewise function, but going back to what a regular function is so we can build on it there. So my next 3 weeks, including this one, is going to be functions, graphing them, and then evaluating ultimately a piecewise function.
Nice. I love that you talk about kind of building that strong foundation. Who encouraged you as a kid? I mean, obviously you have a love for math, but was there somebody in your life or a teacher that really kind of, I don't know, fed that interest and encouraged you? Because I was one of those kids that, I took calculus and trig, and guess what? I just was, don't ask me to do it now. And frankly, it really wasn't until I got into college and I had an amazing professor, and I really can't even put my finger on what it was, but she was the very first professor, math educator I had, where I sat there in the class and was like, I understand this.
Nice.
Like all these light bulbs were going off. And for the first time, it took me until I was a freshman in college to say, I'm a math person. Like, I can do this. Because before that, it was, I did it because I had to. I had to study really hard. I did not enjoy it. I did not see how it applied to me or what I wanted to do. And so, but you know, who did that for you? Who encouraged you along the way?
That's a good question. I believe all my basic encouragement came from my parents. My mom and dad pushed me probably harder than most in some regards. And there's a funny story my mom keeps telling me and all her friends and everyone else when I was like in, I believe like kindergarten or something, in which I was very disruptive. You know, I was just a disruptive kid.
You were smart and probably bored. But
exactly.
Yes.
And that's what she said. She got the complaint from the teacher, and she's like, he's just acting out and, you know, he's doing stuff. And like, well, are you challenging him? And since then, my mom has been like pushing me into harder things to kind of just make sure, one, I'm staying out of trouble, but make sure I'm getting challenged. And that, I feel like that's kind of where it started. But my mind, I've never actually been like a puzzle guy, but math has always been my puzzle. And I just like figuring things out. And from early on, it never was too difficult for me. It kind of, I would almost say it came fairly easy for me. And I was really lazy. So anything that came easy to me, I really loved. Memorizing.
Typical kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Memorizing too much wasn't great. So, you know, although I did well in all of my classes, I didn't like the social studies type of classes because that was just a lot of memorizations. Figuring out how to get somewhere was something that was like, oh, I don't have to remember anything. I could just attack it. I know how to figure out this thing. And math has been that for me since early on. So when I got into like high school, I remember my freshman year, I got a 96 on the first quarter. And I thought, hey, okay, I'm gonna go into honors math now. They're gonna move me up. And she never did. And I was like, huh. So the rest of the the 3 quarters, I got 99s on them. And I asked her at the end of the school year, I'm like, how come you never like pushed me up? Because I was expecting it. And she's like, I didn't think you were gonna be that smart. And I was just like, from then I was like, you know what? I guess I gotta show out a little bit more, just a little bit. But I really just loved math. And it was something that just naturally clicked. And it was just like, I see the solution or I see how to get there. And it made sense. And that love for it, and then, like I said, my parents kind of pushing me when I was younger has just brought me here today.
That's amazing. That's good. And I think your story is what a lot of bright boys experience. They get, you know, mom gets called or dad, and, you know, Courtney's acting up. And what it really is that you needed more challenging work and things that excited you. And you were ready for maybe the next thing. So if you're a parent out there and you're getting those phone calls, maybe your kid needs a more challenging.
Don't be afraid to challenge.
Challenge it and ask, what are you doing? That he's so bored that he has time to act up because they need more. I think that's a lesson right there. So how do you use math in your profession?
So that's a great
where does
question.
it show up? If you're not an educator, what are you doing with your math background?
So this is one message I actually give to everybody. A friend of mine who was a mentee back in college, he teaches middle school now, and he asked, his friends to kind of make videos on this, talking about the profession and stuff like that. And in that message, I told the middle schoolers there, math opens up a lot of doors. So for any young listeners who starts doubting, what am I going to do with math? Don't fall into the trap that you have to be a teacher. As much as I love teachers, like I have the utmost respect for teachers, they are pretty much the leaders of our country, because they're the ones who teach the leaders of our country.
Right.
So they don't get the respect that they deserve. However, you don't have to be pigeonholed into being a teacher. And that was one thing I kind of felt as a kid. Whenever someone was like, hey, you like math, are you going to be a teacher? They're like, no, what else are you going to do? I realized when I was in college, it's not necessarily the math itself, because I don't use hardly any of the math itself, but the thought process. And like I said, math has been my natural puzzle. And because all of the math that I've had to learn how to overcome, how to figure out, how to, like we was talking about before, not give up, that kind of pushed me to, in my current profession where I'm a software developer, when something goes wrong, I want to investigate that. I want to make sure I can replicate my steps. And that was all the stuff that I learned in math. Whenever I had a solution in math, my teachers always told me, check your work. Make sure you get the same answer. So when something that goes wrong in my software development career now, I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. Let me try to do my code a different way. Am I getting the same thing? And it's like the principles in math and what sticks with me now. And that I can figure it out, don't quit kind of attitude is really what kind of gets me where I need to go now. I talked to my manager and he was like, Courtney, you have a skill that doesn't come natural. Because like I said, I never actually thought about honing that skill, but he humbles me because he's like, this is something that you might think comes to everybody, but it's not. You really have to take your time to understand how to dig deeper. And I have to just give that to my math background. If not for the constant questions, if not for the constant practice problems, if not for the constant quizzes, constant tests that was just making you figure it out, I don't think I would be able to really dive into an area that I had no expertise. I didn't go to school. I didn't do any type of learning for computer programming. I have no credentials. I learned everything on the job. And that was mainly because I figured out I could do this. If I treat it as a problem I need to solve, I can do that. I've had years and years of practice doing that. And that's pretty much where I've gotten today. So anyone who's listening, you don't necessarily have to be a teacher, but if you are, kudos to you. That is great. But if you feel like, hey, I want to take math in a different direction, know that the math that you learn will carry you forward in different ways that you probably can't even imagine.
Yeah.
One more story real quick.
Sure.
The first job that I got out of college, I got it primarily because of my math. And it might sound weird because it was a software development job, but the manager at the time was like, you're a math major. I like that. I know if I gave you something, you can figure it out. And he pretty much wanted to hire me on the spot. And like I said, I had no credentials to say, yes, I know C#, I know SQL, I know any of these things. But he's like, if you can do math, I can almost guarantee I can give you something that you can figure it out. So seriously, anyone who's hearing this message and you might question how this math is stupid. You're not going to use this in the real world. It's not the math itself, but it's the principles that the math teaches you that's going to carry you forward in unimaginable ways.
Well, that's a great message for all of us who kind of get in that, I don't know, negative headspace about math if it doesn't come easy to us or it's not our natural gift, and we tell ourselves, I'm not good at math, I'm not a math person. Maybe it's not so much about just the formula, but the idea of sticking it out and figuring it out and putting the pieces together, that's gonna, serve you well in life. You may not go around, I don't know, using geometry or whatever all the time, every single day. But like you said, those principles of figuring it out and the critical thinking you will use throughout your life.
True indeed.
So if parents want to get a hold of you and or watch your videos, where can they find you?
So I have two places primarily that you can find me outside of YouTube that kind of link to YouTube anyway. But on Facebook, if you were to type in Tutor Me Senpai, and that's the word tutor, the word me, senpai, Sempai, all one word, you should be able to find me. And on there, I give pretty much all my information that you can find me on. So you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube. I have my email address in which I'm constantly asking, hey, if you have any homework, send me. One thing when I was a individual tutor that I would say frustrated me as a tutor, parents would wait until the last minute to come to me. And I'm like, I want to help you as much as I can. But if your child has a D and you want him to have a B in a couple weeks, I'm not a miracle worker. There's only but so much I can do. So I implore parents, of all ages, look ahead. If you can get a hold of their syllabus and hey, months down the line, they're probably going to need help with this. If it doesn't look familiar to you, reach out for help for those type of subjects so that when it comes up, you're already ready. And that's what I would ask if you were to visit me on Facebook, if you were to email me directly at cwtutorvids at gmail.com. Like, if you can give me those, by the time you get to those subjects, I could most likely have a video or two out and be able to help you, or you at least know what your child is going to be getting into so they can get less frustrated and you can start looking into those things now. But yes, if you can find me on Facebook at Tutor Me Senpai with an M. You can do the same thing on Instagram. If you were to type in Tutor Me Senpai on YouTube, I think I have enough videos out where they're like, hey, we know that guy. You can find me there too. But my Facebook has all my videos I've posted. So you can get to my YouTube from Facebook. Likewise, I have my bio in Instagram that has my YouTube account there as well. So you can, if you find me on Instagram, you can link it to my YouTube account. So you can find me in any of those places at the moment.
Good. Well, we will share your Facebook link, your YouTube page in the thread here on the group when I post the video. And I think that's really good advice that you gave parents. Most schools are a couple, maybe a month into the school year, a couple weeks at least now. I think everybody is back to school in some fashion, whether it's remote, and now many schools are transferring into their hybrid plan where kids are doing a little remote and a couple days in person. But parents, take a look at the kids' lesson plans, what's going to be coming up. And if it's not a concept that you're familiar with and you think you're going to need a little support, reach out to Courtney and say, hey, I don't remember doing this particular kind of problem, or it's been a really long time. And maybe Courtney can, preemptively get some videos started to help you. And, if you as a parent are thinking about that, I guarantee you there's probably other parents that are going to need the same kind of support. And the same, if one kid's struggling, chances are there are other kids that are struggling with the same concept. So I love that advice. Start thinking ahead and thinking about, okay, this is where I as a parent may not be able to help. And I know as, like I said, a kid that kind of got by on math and upper level classes and but had no support. I mean, my dad didn't have a high school graduate degree, and so I couldn't go to him on those kinds of things. And of course, this was pre-internet, but man, could maybe life have been different had I had people like Courtney to log in and watch a video tutorial to break things down and to present math concepts in a different way. We are living in a really a golden age of learning,
Yes, indeed.
if we take advantage of it. And so, Courtney, I just want to thank you for all that you do and Courtney does this, like I said, he is not an educator by trade. He just does it because he wants to serve people and he wants to help people and he wants to help kids be successful in math and ultimately in life. And at a time like this, I'm super encouraged. And I want to thank you, Courtney, for all that you do and support Courtney in his work. Go to Tutor Me Senpai, watch his videos with your kids, drop him an email if there's a concept that you need help with. And let's get more kids watching his videos so that they can really be super successful and reach their full potential with his help. So,
And if there's something
yeah,
in the
Courtney.
videos, like if there's something in the videos that you didn't necessarily like, you know, I love any and all feedback. I'm not too proud to say, hey, you know, I didn't nail that one. My main thing is I want to help the people who need the videos as much as I can. If my videos aren't the most helpful, then there's no point in me doing this. So any feedback that you can give at any point in time, if it's like, I can't really hear you, or, you know, I think you went too fast, or maybe we can have another example. You know, I feel like that example was too easy, or maybe the example was too hard. Anything that you can give me as a parent or as a student who's watching it, I want to make sure I'm putting my best foot forward to be most helpful to those who are going to be watching these videos. So yes, let me know if you have any questions, any homework that you like to see on the channel. But definitely most important is making sure that if there's anything that, hey, I could be doing better, please let me know.
Well, that's really generous of you and the sign of a good leader, that they seek out feedback and want to improve all the time. And so thank you again, Courtney, for spending your Friday evening with me. I appreciate that. And I know our parents are going to appreciate all the resources that you provide to their children. And so that is all for this week on the Parent Exchange. Next week, tune in because we're going to be talking about micro schools with Prenda Learning. And I'm excited to have Kelly Smith here with us next week. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. Thank you, Courtney. And we will see you around the group. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.